Entire police department resigns. Man arrested in Texas for threats. And a Utah man killed by the FBI. This ain't your mama's podcast. It's the Chico de Manuel Show. Let's get it. All right, man. So I've been in this I've been in this oh, you can't switch cameras. Okay. Well, that's that. I've been in this Facebook war. I've mentioned it before on the podcast about this chick who just I don't even know why I continue to argue with her. Cuz like she doesn't supply any facts, any kind of actual basis for any argument whatsoever. Like it's never based in reality ever. It's just always some arbitrary spur of the moment ass bullshit that like doesn't it's like okay, maybe if it was like 1984, you'd have some kind of angle, you'd have a point I could relate with you, but it's not. It's not 1984. It's 2023. So all this shit you're talking like it just falls on deaf ears for me. I'm sorry. Like I don't know what you expect. I call myself doing this chick a favor by even engaging in these debates, but after for what like couple months of this shit. Like I guess I'm just being petty. Like I'm kind of just dropping in on her post because like she's saying all this hateful, hurtful shit about men. Men suck and calling them negus, 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 or some other little derogatory ass buzzword. It's like just supposed to belittle men and undermine everything men do and have done. That people like her specifically have benefited from. So I just found a thread and the reason I'm gonna read as much of this thread as I could tolerate is because this is the reason. What needs to go is the argument with these people. We need to stop discussing it with these people. Cause like I hate to play the game of who's right and who's wrong, but they're wrong. They're objectively wrong. So if they're not gonna even try to be open minded about shit, then we need to stop having this conversation with them. Stop the fucking conversation. Stop talking to these people who live in this goddamn fantasy world where like shit's arbitrary and the only thing that matters is their whim and how they feel about it. Like, stop doing it because it's pointless. It's stupid. It gets nobody nowhere. So, the original post was this right here. This generation of men want to be chased so bad. Not doing it, little mama. Crying emojis, laughing emojis. I don't know if that's coming up reverse there, but like that's that. And then what did I say? Buy a dog and die alone. Men control access to relationships. Women control access to sex. Facts don't care about your feelings. And she said, y'all not the beginning and the end. Die alone. You put too much value into men and relationships. Like, what do you mean I put too much value? This is the value that they have. Like your inability to see the value doesn't mean I'm putting too much value in it. It means you're not putting enough value in it, because you think all men, you think housewives are just slaves. Like, you stupid ass point. And this is exactly what I mean when I say women think being in a marriage nowadays is slavery. Women think being in a relationship with man is slavery. Like it's not like that. Like that concept can't flip. Like being with you is utopia. So just on that one that said I value I put too much value into men in relationships. I said you don't put enough value into what men value, only yourself. You choose to focus on weak subpar men and broadcast them like they are all men, which is what she does. Like, all men clearly are not slobs. All men clearly ain't just useless useless gatherings of protoplasm lumbering and shuffling around the world. Like, all men aren't that, and that's objectively true. Fuck. All these societies that you live in and utilize wouldn't even exist, most likely, if it wasn't for men. But I digress. I don't focus on any man. The fuck is you talking about? Like, you don't focus on any man. You just called us zesty. Says zesty asses. This generation of men want to be chased so bad. I don't care if you see who she is. Please see who she is. Try to speak some sense into this woman. So it's like, you don't focus on men, but you just shared a post that said this generation of men want to be chased so bad. So the lie detector test determined that's a lie. Moving forward, she said, I don't focus on any man. LOL. The fuck is you talking about? I said, bullshit. You sit here and shit on men daily. You almost never say anything positive about men. Like I said, if you're happy with being without a man, so be it. But I believe most of that is likely because you are insufferable to be around in person. And that's what a lot of it is. A lot of these women that shit on men all the time is like, they're mad because men don't like them. They have poor attitudes. They have no social skills. They have no decorum. They're not feminine. They're aggressive, masculine individuals. And they don't understand that men don't find that attractive intrinsically. Like, they just think men are supposed to conform to however they are and bend to whatever their whim is and not get anything in return for it besides some occasional dry-ass pussy and a fucking overcooked steak. She said, I'm responding to men talking shit about women, which means I thought you don't talk about men. I like talking shit. You don't make sense. Y'all swear a woman a problem because y'all not a priority. It don't matter what men think of my personality. Like, if I don't want nor care to be around them, don't know why y'all get upset about it. So many flaws in that sentence. I got to lean back in my chair for this. So let's just get comfortable. Let's put one leg over the other leg and discuss this shit while I smoke cigarettes and drink coffee. This might be a long one too. Okay, so I don't make sense. That's objectively false. 99.100% of the shit I say makes sense. I swear women is a problem because I'm not a priority. No, believe it or not, I've lived the most of my life not being a priority to women. Okay, I'm 31 years old, and I've spent most of those years not being a priority to women with the exception of my mother. Okay, so that's what she thinks. Like, she presumes that I think that women are a problem because they don't like me. The presumption of intelligence. She thinks that I think that's why women are a problem. She's wrong. I've explained in great detail in dozens of minutes, hours, whatever, on podcast material why I think the attitude women have towards men nowadays is a fucking problem. She just doesn't want to admit. Her goal is never to admit that anything's wrong with her. Her goal is to verify that the problem is with men. So let's view more replies. Yeah. I said the post is about women wanting to chase men. What are you responding to? I always make sense. And you're correct. It matters not what men think of you. But if you don't care how men see you or to be around men, then why are you responding to men talking shit about women? I challenge your claim that you don't want to be around men. Men don't want to be around you. And who is y'all? Who's upset? All y'all do is be upset and not understand men because you don't care about or value men. Go tell your father he's insecure of women because he's not a priority. And like, these women forget that. Like, tell your dad, like your dad is one of these men you're referencing. Like, this is your father. So go tell your father he's a low down piece of shit who's mad because the women aren't a priority to him. And then let's hop in the time capsule and let's go back in time and let's have them have that attitude before you got here. So we wouldn't have to be having this conversation with the likes of you. Just because I don't want one don't mean disrespect will be ignored. What do you mean disrespect? Everything you say about men is disrespectful. I go on her page right now and she just called us zesty. Like, what the fuck does that mean? How am I zesty? I mean, I'm handsome, but I'm not zesty. What the fuck is that? Like, seriously, what is that? Zesty asses? And if you don't believe me, boom, what's that say? Zesty asses right there. Like, what the fuck? Disrespect. What my dad have to do with men my age being subpar? Good question, actually. What does your father have to do with men your age being subpar? Well, when your dad had you, he was the age of the men you are now when your father had you. So, in that sense, you are referencing. Tell your dad that during that time, that's what he was. He was a zesty ass nigga who was mad because women ain't a priority. That's what you comfortable telling us. So tell him that. Like, why is he any different? Because he's your dad. He's a man. He's a man who fought to raise you so you could be the selfish, unappreciative woman that you are today. And I just quit responding to that shit because, like, it wasn't going to go anywhere. Not like it was ever going to go anywhere, but that specifically wasn't going to go anywhere. This is the problem, and then it starts into a new thread. I was in that thread, new thread. This is the problem with men thinking a traditional woman is just a wife and a mother. Y'all expect her whole world to revolve around a man. Ah, man, I know we're supposed to save the turtles and shit, but this woman is wasting so many straws, paper or plastic, just so you can build a man out of them. Straw man fallacy? Like, okay, first of all, this is the problem with men thinking a traditional woman is just a wife and a mother. First invalid argument. Whoever said a traditional woman was just a wife and a mother? We already don't agree on the same definition of what traditional women is. And traditional women are wives and mothers. Like, it's a strictly female role. So it's like, so you're arguing that they aren't just that, even though nobody said they are just that, which is stupid, by the way. Y'all expect her whole world to revolve around a man. Yeah, maybe some portion of real possessive, Napoleon-esque alpha men or whatever. Yeah, probably them. Like, you're talking about men your age. Like most men with values, standards, and morals like myself don't expect. They want a woman who has hobbies. I want a woman who has things to do, so I don't have to sit around and entertain her ass all day because the fucking internet went out and now she can't watch Real Housewives of Atlanta or Love and Hip Hop or whatever, Keeping Up with the Kardashians or whatever stupid ass little reality shit that you watch to keep your life filled with somebody else's drama. Oops, I have to go get that. So yeah, there's that. And I said, I never expected that at all. You think you know what men expect, but your ideology is out of date. What else is a traditional woman besides a mother and a wife that men don't allegedly recognize? Because that's what we need to point out here. Like, you're saying men just think traditional wives are just wives, mothers, and nothing else, without discussing what being a wife and a mother entails. Like, both of those roles inherently include men. Like, if you're a wife, that means you have a husband. If you're a mother, that means there's a father somewhere. It's objectively true. That's not deniable information. So, like, what the fuck is she talking about? Then this other guy named Arthur jumps in. He says, actually, a traditional woman is just a wife and a mother primarily, and her life revolves around her family, at least according to the definition. Then he put this up. Says, noun. I guess he looked up the definition of traditional woman. It says, noun, a married woman who chooses to be a homemaker as a primary occupation and adheres to or embodies traditional femininity and female gender roles, often associated with conservative or alt-right political values. So yeah, like, your life is your family. Like, when you marry a man and you have children, like, you're pretty much dedicating the next 20 to 30 years of your life to raising those children. That's your life. Like, it doesn't say that that's all your life is, but it's like, even if you become a career woman, like if you're a CEO of a company, like a CEO is your life. That's your life. You don't really have too much time for leisure, taking trips to Abu Dhabi and fucking Athens and drinking, eating brunch and drinking, buying expensive ass bottles of champagne every weekend, or going like shopping in Vegas or some shit. Like, that's you know, that's your life. And like, you make that decision. Men don't decide it for you when they marry you. She says, so only gender role and characteristic of traditional woman is wife and mother, nothing else. And that's the definition of a trade wife. Another straw man, it says primarily a woman who chooses to be a homemaker as a primary occupation and adheres to, he said that it's just a wife and a mother primarily. Like, yeah, those, just like if you was a CEO, your company keeping your company afloat and doing whatever task your company needs from you would be primarily you. You aren't that company. It's a real simple explanation here, but like, her fucking thinking error will not allow her to get this shit in her mind. Ugh. And he said it's the definition of, quote, housewife from the view of it being a job that requires training, and will, which makes it a trade. Nice try, but the play on words only works on brothers with GEDs. A trade. Definition: the action of buying or selling goods and services. A skill job, typically one requiring manual skills and special training. Which I agree. Like, all women, like I said before, all women ain't cut out to be mothers. Hell, a lot of you women today ain't cut out to be women. That's right. I said it. You ain't cut out to be women. A lot of you. Because your attitudes are fucked up, and women need better attitudes. So for you calling yourself a woman, it's actually kind of like blasphemous and inaccurate. And I would suggest you work on yourself, like I've worked on myself, which is why I feel so comfortable telling you to work on yourself. But anyway, that's something else. I don't play on nothing. It says trade wife. Now, I meant to say be happy with just being a wife and mother. That's the problem. Like, she not a person with thoughts and feelings. Whoever said that? Whoever said traditional women aren't people with thoughts and feelings? Like, her argument is stuck somewhere where it's not being attacked. Nobody's saying traditional women aren't women. That's just what you feel. And it's like, you don't want to stay at home and raise your children while a man goes out and does all the heavy lifting for you. If you could just not have to work, like not have to go to work, but still get paid as if you did, would you complain? I was like, what, do you think I'm just an employee and I'm just somebody you can throw money at? You wouldn't say a goddamn thing. You would gladly take that check, sit on your ass, and fucking do whatever dumbass shit you do in your time. So it's like, if that's not the case when you have a career, why is that the case when you have a family? The argument is flawed. Her argument is deeply flawed, and she sounds stupid. Being a traditional woman has done nothing good for women as a whole group. Being a traditional woman has done nothing good? Being a traditional woman has given women safety, security, structure. It's given women, the opportunity to play their part in creating legacies. Like, all legacies require women, you know? Like, if somebody's going to have a family and then that family go on from generation to generation to generation, you need women who care about that. Like, the woman has to care and value, continue in that generation as something valuable. Not just so he just think I'm just a baby making station who don't have no thoughts and feelings, but I'm going to keep doing it. Like, come on, nah. Doesn't fucking make sense at all. And that's why I'm talking about this shit in such great length, because it's stupid, and I hate stupidity. More replies. Oh, there's more to this. Oh, yeah, my man's art. Oh, no. She says, being a housewife requires training, and how she get paid. Why can't she quit? Why wasn't it a choice? Why was she at the mercy of her husband and control and views? Sound like slavery. Traditional housewife don't sound appealing. Well, yeah, well, if you fucking call it slavery, hell no, it's not appealing. But being a housewife requires training. Yeah, not like training that you go to like Votech for. No, like, you have to have some experience with children. Have you ever babysat? Have you ever like been around, helped care for small children? Have you ever worked at a daycare? Yeah, you need to know how to handle children. Most men aren't great in handling small children. I know I don't want to handle those small children. Like, I can't talk to a child. And I'm not with the whole I ain't with all that shit. I want to talk. I want to use language. I want to talk to a young, budding adult male. that my wife has helped prepare, not some stammering little infant throwing up on itself every 5 fucking minutes. I'm not saying I don't want any part of that, but yes, I would like my mother to primarily handle that shit, and I will fill in the blanks. And then once the kid ages, he's like 4, 5, 6, he started to make that transition where he can do shit like iron his own clothes, wash dishes and cut grass and shit. Like, you know, when he can do that, then I'll take that. And then you can fill in my blanks, you know? But yeah, I don't see how women would get anything out of that. Like, you start, like, you and then hand them off, and then like that gives you more time to do things. Like, you can still be your own wife with your own person, thoughts, and feelings. And then her saying that, like, she doesn't, like, why wasn't it a choice? And I get what she's saying. She's saying it wasn't a choice from the sense that women couldn't thrive on their own without having a man. Women wanted that choice. They have that choice now. So just because you have the choice doesn't mean it's a better choice. It's a choice you wanted. It's a choice you now have. Which is why I'm saying her ideology is stuck in the past. Like, she's still talking about shit like it's 1984. Like it's 1973. Like, no. Your argument is in a different era. That's why it doesn't make sense. It might have made sense then, but it doesn't make sense now. And you're trying, and it's just like black people being stuck in this slave ass mindset. These women are stuck in this contemporary feminist mindset, which is why they don't value men, which is why they don't value families, and which is why they look at being a housewife as slavery. Like she just said, if you think I'm full of shit, let me see, where was it? Yep. Being a housewife requires training. Sounds like slavery. Slavery. It's right there. Sounds like slavery. Sounds like slavery. Traditional housewife don't sound appealing. It does sound appealing to you because you've decided to espouse a flawed ideology. And I don't feel sorry for you because you're not willing to even accept that the way you view the world might be wrong. It's not like there's a right way to view the world, but there's definitely a wrong way. Shit. And then I'll just go a little bit further in here. I told her, straw man, you're deeply biased. What other role do you want women to have? And don't say whatever a woman wants to do. Women are astronauts nowadays. What other role do they need? Traditional women have thoughts and feelings just like you do. Being a traditional woman is a good deal, and millions of women are happily married and not hollering about how they are viewed as cattle or robots. And she says they most likely more than just looked at as a wife and a mother, and they have a choice to be a housewife. But she just said women didn't have choices. You see what I'm saying? She literally just got done saying like women were this slavery. Like, why wasn't it a choice traditionally? What the fuck are you talking about? You just said she likely was viewed as more than a housewife or a mother, and it was a choice. So which is it? Is it a choice, not a choice? You can't have it a choice when you want to be a choice, and then not have it a choice when you don't want it to be a choice. Make some goddamn sense, woman. I'm saying, I don't think you realize what a traditional wife was. No, I don't think you realize what a traditional wife was because your definition's all over the place depending on which era you need to take the troubles from to apply to the current time and use to your flawed ideology. The man was in control. Without so many options, women had to stay married to live comfortable. Midwives and housewives, two different things. So my understanding of midwife was somebody who helped deliver babies, not like a woman who was like in the middle stages of being a wife. I don't know what, Traditional women who fought for women's rights were tired of just being traditional wives, and men of all races still bashing women heads in who try to be independent of them. Domestic violence wasn't officially a crime until 1994, and I didn't say nothing about African slaves, so stop trying to deter the topic. And yes, traditional role of a woman was to be a wife and do housework. They most likely looked at just, okay, yeah, no, I read it out. I'm like, so it's just so many flaws in this. Like, I don't care how long this runs. I will still do the rest of the show. This show might run well over an hour. But I'm fucking doing this because I'm sick of hearing this shit. It needs to go. It's an argument I'm tired of having. It's fucking stupid. And this woman, if you've seen her name on here, great. I won't say her name. But if you've seen it on here, whatever. But this woman continues to espouse this flawed-ass ideology and then try to join the discussion with this bullshit. And then when her argument gets destroyed, she's incredulous. Like, it's fucking weird, dude. So yeah, the man was in control. The man's still in control for the most part, losing control, but like men run this shit. I don't see any woman climbing into a manhole. I don't see any woman up on a fucking skyscraper. I don't see any woman plumbing, being electricians. Not to say that there aren't any, but if you was to just randomly flip through the phone book and just call up a plumber, call up an electrician, call a contractor, boom, man, almost guaranteed. Just find random one. Just pick one at random, boom, fucking guy. I guarantee it. Without many options, women had to stay married to live comfortable. What do you mean without many options? What does that mean? I'm not saying women had many options. I'm just saying, what do you mean by without many options? Women had to stay married to live comfortable lives. So if women had to stay married to live comfortable, you're saying women were comfortable. So they were comfortable and dissatisfied with their comfort. Midwives and housewives, two different things. I agree with that. They are. Traditional women who fought for women's rights was tired of just being traditional wives. Okay, traditional women who fought for women's rights, like who? Name two. Like name two traditional women who fought for women's rights, and make sure that they were tired of being traditional women too. Whatever the fuck that means. I'm tired of being a traditional woman. What's the alternative? If you're tired of being a traditional woman, what are you going to be? A non-traditional woman? Like, what does that entail? What's like? See, she doesn't want to provide details, but she wants to use these things to engage with the point that she has. Doesn't work that way. Like if you're gonna bring a stance you hold to a debate, you need to be ready to challenge it against criticism. Because I'm gonna have questions, just like you got questions for me. I have questions too. Because hell, if what you're saying makes sense, I just want to make sure I know that. Excuse me, before I go around regurgitating that shit, you know. And men of all races were still bashing women's heads and who tried to be independent of them. Domestic violence wasn't officially a crime until 1994. I'm going to look into that. I'm going to look into that because assault has been a crime forever. So like what, if you beat a woman's ass in your house, it's like, I'm sorry, if you guys would have did this at the corner pub, I would have been able to take them to jail. Next time you get into an argument, make sure you guys go down to Clem's. Like, what the fuck? Assault has always been a crime. You can't just hit other people. And let's not forget, women initiate domestic violence too. And there's a stigma. Like I've heard many, many stories in jail and out of jail about men who women throw themselves down the stairs or like just lie to the police about how shit got started, and then they get hauled off to jail because she's pissed off at him. Like, if you want to cheat, go cheat, but don't get me sent to jail just so you can have a couple of days to go suck some dick. Like, what the fuck? And you can't mention this kind of shit. Even if domestic violence, let's just say it was not officially a crime until 1994. It doesn't mean it wasn't unofficially wrong. And like, men of all races was bashing women's heads in. Like, what the fuck? Show some data. Please show some data. Because if we could just make all kind of arbitrary claims whenever we want just to further our current agenda in the conversation we in, boy, let's start over. Because I thought we was playing by the rules of facts and logic. So if we can do that shit, let's start over, please. And I didn't say nothing about African slaves, so stop trying to deter the topic. Yeah, but you said what you did say about slaves is that's what being a housewife sounds like to you. You said being a housewife sounds like a slave. So I said, go ask people who are actually enslaved and are still enslaved to this day, many of which are in Africa. Go ask them if they would rather be a housewife or go continue to be a slave, like an actual slave, like ball and chain slave, like your name is Toby, slave. You're comparing that to being a housewife? How is that not disrespectful to your ancestors? Go tell your father that he kept your mama hostage. He held your mother hostage as a slave, and that's the reason why you're here today. And see how he feels about that statement. Because it's patently absurd. It's stupid. Dummy. And yes, traditional role of a woman was to be a wife and do housework. So we just got to sprinkle in some thoughts and feelings in that for it to not be tyrannical, I guess. Like, if we don't acknowledge the woman's thoughts and feelings while she's tending to the house, And then let's say, what if you're bad at that job? What if I marry you and you're a bad housewife? Since you want to invoke questions like, is there paid training and all of this shit? Can you be fired? What if you're doing a bad job as a housewife? Do I have the right to leave you behind? Or no, I got to keep you around because I elevated your quality of life, but you can't meet that standard. So now I'm just stuck with you. But the moment you get sick of me, boom, divorce, alimony, child support, half my shit, blah, 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 all of that. Totally fair. I said, what's wrong with the man being in control if it meant women live comfortably? Women were tired of living comfortably? I don't know what world you're living in. You're talking about almost 30 years ago. Your whole argument is arbitrary. Your delusions of grandeur are fascinating. You do not strike me as a traditional woman. It used to be a good thing to keep your man happy. Now it's just fuck men from all angles. I think a Yorkshire Terrier will be a cute dog for you. I think you're just bitter because your window is past and men don't want a woman like you. Like this woman is in her 40s. Men aren't paying attention to you. You are literally invisible to men. Just like most young guys and guys who want good women like that are invisible to you because you think all men suck. You don't have anything positive to say about men at any point. Men are just tyrannical monsters here to oppress women and be jealous because now women have power. Like, men are always going to have power. We dominate in the physical realm, and physicality has been one of the longest, most consistent forms of dominating shit. If 100 men, like look at Barbie Land. All it took was for Ken to get out there and read a couple books about the patriarchy, and he completely conquered Barbie Land. And then women thought they had to outsmart men by listening to him play the guitar at them and just pretending to like them and then switching to another man, and then that turns men against each other. Yeah, sure. Men who care about that shit. Men who've never had a woman before. Like, if you had women, I've been with plenty of women. Yeah, something I never do. I'll even allude to my body count a little bit. Not no exact number, but let's say it's over 100. Okay? So women ain't new to me. Like, I ain't impressed by fucking beauty. I fuck more bitches than the average nigga. Most men are lucky to get to 20. I've done that 5 times over, sir. Not all dimes, of course. No. I never said they were all pretty women, but pussy's pussy. I got there, homie. Shit, I had bad ones. I'd have had mediums. I'd have had ugh mugs. I'd have had them all. So it's like, that's just nothing. And Arthur chimes in and says, I think it's the way you're wording your message is triggering her, my brother. You're 100% correct in everything you're saying, but today's women have been gassed up into thinking they can do anything a man can do, and because of that, they don't need men. Great point. If I were a woman, I would take pride in being an in-shape housewife, taking care of the family's finances, health, making sure the kids are on top of their studies, on time for practices, and we will be dominating. If you look at the statistics, single fathers are doing just as good a job at raising healthy, well-adjusted kids as two-parent households. It's the single, I don't need no man mothers who are destroying the kids of tomorrow because they chase their baby daddy based on the number of drinks he bought. And they shouldn't blame all men for their decision, but they do. And that's because they're mad at themselves. This is not him anymore. This is because they're mad at themselves. They're mad at themselves because they thought they didn't need a man. The reality, boom, dropped in on their fucking head. And now they're salty about that shit. It's like, hey, well, instead of admitting like, yeah, maybe I do need a man, they just want to demonize all men. They want to take it out on the new generation of women because they had a couple bad experiences with men. Like, but that's not, you don't have to ruin their shit or because your shit was fucked up, or they try to get mad when a 22-year-old woman gets with like a fucking guy in his 40s or whatever. That's when we're at our prime. When you're in your prime, we're invisible to you. And I always say this too, the only reason your complaints have any fucking merit whatsoever is because somebody out there, usually other used up ass women, care about these complaints. They care. I don't give a fuck about your complaints. I'm trying to help women who aren't carrying around loads of baggage like you. Like, women need to get themselves in good shape, and women, unless their goal is to pursue a career and they've made a conscious decision to put the family second. Like, if women want to go get careers, they fought for that choice. They have it now. Go get it. But just know that trying to have both is walking a very, very thin tightrope, and it usually is going to put a strain on your family. If you try to be successful in your career and successful in the house, like, you're going to be spread absolutely thin. So if women want to go out there and have careers, go out there and have them. That's not what I'm mad at. What I'm mad at is that, like, now that you feel like just because men have been having careers since the dawn of time, men have been doing, and like now women want to say, well, hey, we can do that too. It's like, men don't give a fuck. I don't care. If you can do it too, congratulations. If you're good at it, more congratulations. But I don't care. Because if I want a woman that's gonna do what I want her to do, like if you're a hiring manager and you need, a particular skill, like let's just say you need a welder, you're not looking for people who fucking you're not looking for a dentist. You don't go people say, oh yeah, I worked in this dentist office, I was just didn't listen. Congratulations, you're hired. Come in here as a welder. No, I'm looking for a welder who welds shit because I need welding done. No, I don't need a cavity filled. So, like, I'm looking for somebody who wants to fill that role. If you don't want to be a housewife, more power to you. If you don't want to be a traditional woman, more power to you. But I'm looking for that. And all the women who say, you ain't no traditional man, couldn't fucking cook an omelet. Couldn't cook an omelet, couldn't wash the damn skillet, couldn't do any of that shit. They just heard some tropes being passed down through the fucking grapevines. And now they're trying to latch onto that shit like it's something. Newsflash, it's not. Men not in control of their wives. This is her. Yeah, men are not in control of their wives like in the past. 2, if being a housewife is a job, how come you feel the husband make all the rules and decisions if they both work and contribute to the household? And the thread ends shortly after that. Like, it's just so much straw man with this woman, so much BS, so much nonsense, so much evasiveness. And the last thing, just stop. I'm not trying to make being a house. This is what Arthur said to her, because she said, just stop. Nothing you said made traditional housewife appealing or beneficial. Now, this is based on her standards, on her standards of what's appealing and beneficial. He says, I'm not trying to make being a housewife sound good to you or women like you, but you're not built for that life. And I have been, quote, she said, I have been a wife. I don't want to be a housewife. And look at how you just belittles the role of the housewife. Getting married doesn't make you a housewife, a homemaker. It means you're married. That's it. You were married. Fucking facts. Quote her. And now because you can't relate to women's struggles, I don't take care of my kids or pay bills. Well, who do it then? How they get clothes and food and shelter if I don't take care of a household? I don't know. Why don't you ask the person who made the clothes, who built the shelter? Just because you pay bills, like that's not. Just because you can acquire something somebody already built. That's like buying a famous painting and then saying you're an artist. Like, oh, I bought this famous Da Vinci work and now I'm a fucking, or I bought this Picasso painting, now I'm an artist. Like, no. You're piggybacking off what someone else did. You didn't paint one goddamn brushstroke. Your ass let somebody else paint the brushstroke, waited for everybody to like it, and then capitalized on it. That doesn't make you an artist at all. It might mean you have good taste in art, but it doesn't make you an artist. And in response to that, how she get clothes, food, shelter, what does the struggles that women go through have to do with being a housewife or a homemaker? Nothing. And the majority of the problems women have are of their own making, so stop trying to blame men. And then she says, quote, my mind is enslaved because some fools made a law about hair and used one of them language degrees to know the difference between housewife and midwife. Your mind is enslaved because you're complaining about a law about doing hair. You're complaining about a law about hair instead of doing something about it. And my degree isn't the study of languages. It's the study of how language impacts culture. But nice try. Besides, I've explained what both mean, but you are impervious to learning when it goes against what you think you know. This guy is a fucking top G. This guy is the shit. Thank you, man. And I just jumped on there and posted this morning, which it motivated me to get on this 37-minute rant. 37-minute rant about this incredulous creature. I said, I've been trying to keep my post with her short. She doesn't argue using facts and logic. She hates men and believes false stats that she made up. Her whole stance is out of date and arbitrary. I'm just going to start sending links to the ASPCA because that's obviously what she wants. And I told her, you're not a man, so stop acting like men actually like you. You are the original penis repellent. Just like you're not an astronaut, so you can't comment on the moon or space. You're not a father, so you can't comment on that. You don't align with facts and logic. So keep hating men, and I'll give you a 20% off coupon for a doggy bed at PetSmart. Like, just absolute lunacy, man. Just downright denial, lunacy, and self-hatred. She hates herself. And I think this is just my projection. I think that somewhere down the line, she is kicking herself for some poor decisions she made regarding men. And if that is the case, that lends credence to the point I was trying to make initially, like women have to choose better men. Ooh, all this dude got this mic all sweaty. Women have to choose better men. The burden, like, there are going to always be shitty men out there. Shitty men are always going to exist. You cannot eliminate the shitty men. Hell, half the time it's hard to notice them right away if you don't know what you're looking for. But you can't eliminate shitty men, just like men can't eliminate gold diggers. Like, they'll always be there. You can't eliminate OnlyFans models. Like, shit like that's always going to be there. But instead of complaining about the pool of men that there is to choose from, why not tighten up your parameters for choosing men? The burden is on you to not have sex with subpar men and give them families when they're not strong enough to handle it. I got my girlfriend in high school pregnant at 15. Her mom made her have an abortion. At that time, I was distraught out of my mind. I'm like, how could she do this? How could she take away my opportunity to be a father? That was at age 15. 16 years later, if I could find this woman and give her a kiss on the lips, I would. Karen Bryant, thank you very, very much. You were right. Even though I do still remember the girl's name, she said I wouldn't remember her name. I'll never forget her fucking name because she had some of the best pussy ever. But that's that's something else. Like, fucking, she said I would not remember her daughter, and like she literally, I couldn't see how that decision was benefiting me at the time. But like, had I been a father from age 15, oh, I would probably be in prison. I would be a fucking train wreck. I would have been, and she would have ran me ragged. She would have been sitting there dogging me out, talking shit about me, playing tricks on my mind because I wasn't there yet. I didn't even have the kind of male guidance to where I could have maybe have been ready for that shit. You know? So like, you got to choose. The burden's on you to choose good guys. Like choosing me it was 3, 5, 7, 10 years ago. Terrible decision. And you'd have been stuck with it had you had to deal with my immaturity and all my fucked up shit. That had just been on you. It's not a crime to tell women that they need to make better choices regarding men. And a lot of that comes from having a father, a model father in the household so you can see what good men look like before you get out there. Hell, the way I feel, I'm going to be choosing the man for my daughter. Even as an adult. Like, yeah. Like, she can go pick whoever she wants. If I don't like the nigga, she'll never get my blessing. I'm not trying to stop her from anything. These are actions you have to take out of love that don't seem like love. If I didn't give a fuck about you, I'll let you go marry whatever random ass soy boy you wanted and wouldn't give a fuck about the outcome. Fuck you and that nigga. But no, because I love you and I'm a parent, I sometimes have to do things that aren't understood or don't necessarily translate over as to an act of love. Just like when Mrs. Bryant made her daughter have that abortion. She was looking out for her daughter, but she was looking out for me too. And at that time, my mind couldn't entertain such a thought. That sounded absolutely ludicrous to me. But now, that's the only reason I'm here talking about this shit. This is the longest opening bit I've ever done. But I think it was the perfect example for me to like lay out my stance and why I say the things I say. The girl in them Facebook comments, she's lost. She is damaged goods. We're never gonna get to save that. Like she is, I could talk to her till I'm blue in the face, till my mouth is dry, until my sanity has depleted. Nevertheless, she's gonna continue to be stuck under 1960s, 1950s, 1930 ass ideology, while simultaneously turning around and saying it's not that period of time anymore. This is that leftist shit at work. And when people do this shit, if you don't confront them with honesty and truth, facts, reasoning, logic, pragmatism, if you don't do that, you're not doing these women a favor. You know, you're coaxing them to buy into this garbage ass narrative, which is flawed and could ultimately ruin their life. I've already called myself a chauvinist. I've already been labeled a misogynist. I know that I'm not. That shit doesn't bother me anymore. What bothers me more is lazy, irresponsible women trying to put off all their shortcomings and failures on men. Specifically them, not the people who aren't. If you aren't doing that, this statement, this rant, monologue, whatever you want to call it, is not for you. Okay? Jesus Christ. All right. Courtesy of NBC News by Myrna Al-Sharif. Entire police department in Minnesota City resigns. The Goodhue City Council discussed options for police coverage after the entire department's resignation. All right. A small city in southeastern Minnesota could be left without a police department after the entire force recently resigned. The Goodhue Police Department resigned because of issues with the city's pay. Mayor Ellen Anderson Buck said at a city council meeting Monday, the city, which is in a county of the same name, has a population of just over 1,000, according to his website. The city council met to discuss options for police coverage after the department's resignation. The meeting was initially called so the city could discuss salary increases for the department, but the entire team resigned before it could happen. Police Chief Josh Smith submitted his resignation at a city council meeting last Wednesday, the Associated Press reported. A full-time officer and 5 part-time employees resigned 2 days after having learned about Smith. Quote, since the resignations have been handed in by our police department, it has been recommended by our city attorney that at this point we need to pursue other options. So at this point, there's no reason to really talk about pay increases since we no longer have a police force. At a July 26 council meeting, Smith said there were 0 applicants for the police department and disclosed that other law enforcement agencies were trying to recruit him and his colleagues. So right now, with our current trying to hire at $22 an hour, you're never going to see another person walk again through these doors. That's it, unless you guys do a dramatic change. Smith stressed the urgency of the matter and said smaller police departments he looked into pay at least $30 an hour. There's 0 incentive to come out here to a small town, low pay, being on call, affecting your free time and everything else, he said. Members of the police department, including Smith, didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. Anderson Buck also didn't respond to requests for comment. At the council meeting, Anderson Buck says she had been in contact with the Goodhue County Sheriff's Office and has a meeting scheduled Wednesday to discuss police coverage for the city in the interim. The police department will be on duty until August 24th, she said. Quote, I want to reiterate that we will have police coverage in the city of Goodhue. That is not an issue. She adding that she has been very assured that the transition will be very smooth, quote unquote. Anderson Buck said the police department resigning is not unusual. It does happen. When? Where? How? Fuck you mean it's not unusual? Yes, it is. We're not the first and we won't be the last. To interrupt, like, what's the benefit here of having a smug ass, like, just untouchable attitude to something like this? Yeah, granted, the city's only got 1,000 people, but like nobody wants to defend this city. And why not? $22 an hour is not enough. I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna pretend to be an economist, but for shit, $22 an hour and being on call for what? A cat being stuck in a tree? Fuck yeah, I'll come do that shit. Following a short-term interim solution, the city will look to rebuild its police department, which will include discussions about raising officer salaries, she said. A council member compared Goodhue officers' salary to those of welders in the city, saying nobody's going to come put their life on the line for a very low rate. Anderson Buck told the council that rebuilding the department will be an uphill battle, but that it can be done. There are 202 vacancies for police officers in Minnesota, she said. The next council meeting will be August 23rd. By which time Anderson Buck says she hopes to have a short-term solution in place. Well, fuck yeah, you hope to have a short-term solution in place, goddammit. Like, your whole police force just walked out on you. Granted, you only have a police force of about, 200 people for a city of 1,000? And, like, what the fuck happens in Goodhue, Minnesota? Like, I've never heard of that place. I haven't heard of one crime come out of Goodhue, Minnesota in my life. Prior to reading that article, I didn't know what the fuck it was at all. And if you've got a whole police force, like, resigning and it's 202 vacancies that nobody wants, I don't see how that doesn't translate into a police department. There's nothing going on there. Like, a town of 1,000 people, that's probably like one of those towns where, like, you can drive through it and not even recognize it. Like you might see the McDonald's there, it might be a Dollar General, it might be some local supermarket, it might be like a bridal store or like something where girls get their dresses to wear to prom or some shit like that, a tuxedo and bridal gallery, and like it may be like a Home Depot or some shit nearby, and you drive through that shit. It's one traffic light at a main intersection where all this shit is, and you drive through it quicker than you can fart. Like, where are all the people that was talking about defund the police? Like, shit like this should make them happy. Like, if I was a criminal, I'm going to Goodhue, Minnesota, and I'm breaking into people's houses, armed with a shotgun and hand grenades and other kind of flashbang, incendiary, chaff grenade, all that kind of shit. I'm coming locked and loaded, and I'm going to steal the entire city. Because not only are there no longer any police officers, there's no one signing up to do that gig. So it's a perfect place for crime to ensue. Even though there's probably nothing valuable there, because I don't hear anything talking about how there was any crime there. Like I said, I've never even heard of Goodhue, Minnesota. And nobody wants to do the gig. Nobody wants to sit around on call. Are you an on-call police officer in the city? I think it's safe to say no crime happens here. No substantial crime happens here. Nothing that I would want to run away from or not want any part of happens here. It's a ghost town. Who knows or gives a flying fuck about Goodhue, Minnesota? But I just think it's just the headline caught me like, damn, a whole police force resigned. I was thinking it was gonna be about like some type of scandal or like, they didn't strike or anything. It's just like, man, we're not getting paid enough and there's not enough going on here. People talk about who wants to come risk their life for this amount of money. What do you mean risk your life? Nothing happens here. I can safely glean that, and if at some point, if it's on my mind later on, I'll go look at the crime data for Goodhue, Minnesota, and see what type of crime happens there. Maybe that'll be my next 40-minute opening segment. But to me, based off the data that I've been provided and based off what I know about small towns, they take care of their own in small towns. So you go there and try to carjack somebody at a stoplight. Go try to rob an old lady while she crossing the street. Yeah, you think you're tough. Try that shit in a small town like Goodhue, Minnesota. Go try that shit in a small town like Goodhue, Minnesota, man. As a matter of fact, I recommend you don't. Nah, man, but it's not good to have a police force resign like that. But in a town like that, I don't think you do want to have a police force, but I think it might be time to consider downsizing. If you got 200 vacancies open and everybody quit because they didn't want being on call as a police officer ruining their plans or like interrupting their day or whatever the fuck. If that's the case, then you might want to consider just shrinking the police force, dude. Like I cannot imagine how anything else. This is the kind of town where like if you're doing 26 and a 25, you're getting flicked. Not because they're racist or anything, but that's because that's how police departments make money. This is going to become one of them towns where, like, people are the most dangerous thing. You're probably going to see complaints of, like, people speeding and fucking running red lights and stop signs and shit, doing 40 through a residential or some shit. And that's being generous. Like, I just don't. This is a problem, but I cannot scale it up to a point where I can actually see it as a problem. Like, just shrink the police force down. Raise the pay rate a little bit so you're paying less people more. And get on with your life, man. If you don't want to fucking be an on-call cop, or like this city will govern itself. Like, take turns being a fucking sheriff or something. Like, that's what used to happen. I'm assuming before like these communities grew up into these big dense urban landscapes. Like, just have a couple people passing around, sit around at the fucking city limits, getting drunk and just checking people out, and just try not to do anything egregiously crooked or immoral, and you shouldn't be much of an issue. But I just thought it was kind of bizarre to see a whole fucking police force resigning at once till I found out it was Goodhue, Minnesota. I've been waiting for months for something to happen in that fucking one horse town, and like this is that. So guess I got what I was wishing for. Courtesy of Reuters. Kanishka Singh, Texas man who suggested mass shooting of poll workers, sentenced to 3.5 years. All right. A Texas man who suggested a, quote, mass shooting of poll workers in 2022 elections and threatened two Maricopa County, Arizona officials and their children was sentenced to 3.5 years in federal prison, the U.S. Justice Department said on Friday. Am I tripping? Yeah, I'm tripping. Frederick Francis Goltz, 52, pleaded guilty in April to interstate threatening communications and was sentenced by U.S. District Judge James Wesley Hendricks, who also ordered 3 years of supervised release following the prison term. Goltz threatened several individuals, including a Maricopa County Attorney's Office lawyer and a Maricopa County elections official, on the far-right social media platforms Patriots.win and Gab.com. The Justice Department said Phoenix, the Arizona state capital, is in Maricopa County. An FBI investigation into Golt's social media activity revealed long history of threatening statements against targets, including government officials and law enforcement officers, prosecutors said. In November 2022, he advocated for, quote, a mass shooting of poll workers and election officials in precincts he believed had suspect results, prosecutors said in midterm elections. A few weeks later, he said he was, quote, willing to take lives, quote, to counter a, quote, tyrannical government, according to prosecutors. Goltz repeatedly emphasized, quote, children are not off limits, prosecutors said. Some Republican candidates and activists promoted false theories of voter fraud during the 2022 midterm elections. Kari Lake, a high-profile Republican candidate who lost her bid to become Arizona governor in November, and former President Donald Trump pointed to temporary Election Day problems with electronic vote counting machines in Maricopa County as evidence that Republicans' votes were being suppressed. All right, short article, couple things to touch on, especially with me being such a proponent of free speech. I believe highly in free speech. I believe it is an integral part of any functioning society to have a degree of freedom in the things that you are allowed to say. Like, you need to be able to speak freely if you think freely. Like, your speech is a byproduct of your thoughts. So when you have these thoughts, you need to be able to articulate them without fear of repercussion, without fear of something unfair happening as a result of you just saying what's on your mind. You just being honest. And I think honesty is an element that's put in and taken out rather freely. Like, people will say things that they don't believe to be true, but it's like they have the right to say them, and free speech is necessary to have any meaningful discourse, because this shit ain't just rainbows and butterflies. Like, we got to exchange conflicting, dangerous narratives in order to get places, to move forward. However, just because you can say what you want doesn't mean you should say what you want, or that saying what you want comes at a free price. Free speech is not free. That's not what we mean by free. Like, free as in you don't pay a price. It's free as in you have the opportunity to do so. Like, you can say what you want, and you don't have to worry about getting killed for it or getting arrested. Well, I shouldn't say getting arrested, actually, but like, you don't have to worry about people coming after you, unless in cases when, like this fucking idiot here who was saying all that goofy shit. Now, I mean, I vibe with the sentiment. I don't vibe with how it was worded. I vibe with the sentiment that, some of these elections might have had some suspect results, like, excuse me, some of them might have. There's nothing wrong with expressing skepticism in the election system, because that was coming from both sides. That was definitely coming from both sides. So, but saying he was willing to take lives to counter a tyrannical government, like people on the left, I was watching Matt Walsh, and people on the left said they would be willing to resort to violence to see Trump get arrested. Because Trump is, every time my phone beeps nonstop with a new indictment, a new allegation, a new something towards Donald Trump. I mean, like, just all beep, 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 beep. I'm thinking somebody's texting me, but I should know nobody's texting me because I don't have that many friends. People don't text me. But this motherfucker rings nonstop with people talking this whole, oh, Trump has got a new indictment. Trump's caught up on something else. New Trump charge. I'm like, what the fuck? And people said they would be willing to resort to violence to see him get arrested. So this is kind of the same thing, but I don't see anybody talking about arresting these people and putting them in jail. Like, people say goofy shit all the time. But if you're going to, I'm granted this guy was threatening people's lives, like, repeatedly. But yet and still, if people would even answer a poll that say they would be willing to resort to violence in order to see Trump get arrested on all these bogus claims they keep throwing at him, that's kind of tantamount to me. Like, I don't see too much of a difference there. Like, it may not be as specific and aimed, but willing to resort to violence is that's a dangerous claim. Like, if somebody's willing to kill to see him get arrested, that concerns me. Oh yeah, here we go. Sorry, I gotta do some tech shit. That concerns me highly. Just like what this guy said concerned the fucking government highly. But he loses me when he says children are not off limits. Like, no, you are a brand of radical I could kind of chew on, but when you say children are not off limits, you've lost me. Like, this guy is clearly unhinged. To even joke that children are off limits is unacceptable to me. Like, children are always off limits. Children always should be off limits in strictly adult matters. Okay? This guy knew what the fuck he had coming. You know, he thought it was okay. My mom told me a story about a guy she knew who made a threat, like Bill Clinton was president. And he made some type of statement about how he would, if he had a chance, he would slap the shit out of Bill Clinton or whatever or something. And that motherfucker disappeared and she never saw him again. So it's like, you have to watch what you say. Free speech ain't free. Like, you cannot go around just look at Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a good example. Like, he said a lot of true shit, but the one time he didn't, it was heinous and completely irresponsible and incorrect. And he paid the price. Like, he paid big for that shit. He had a somewhat decent reputation, and he fucked it up, calling those people crisis actors and saying that their children hadn't died. You know, so this is just another example of like how even with free speech, you got to watch what the fuck you say, because somebody might be out there listening, and if they are, it certainly doesn't serve you well. It doesn't bode well for you if you making radical extremist comments about killing people, being willing to commit violence, and children being on the table for that violence. Even I feel like you should have got some, just for saying children are off the table. Like, I'm not real cool about people who have a callous attitude towards children in terms of just fuck their well-being and fuck their safety due to them not being mature yet. Like, they just like their inability to consent or have any meaningful input simply because their minds can't conceptualize that shit yet. I just think the wanton throwing around their children as if they're just bargaining chips, or who gives a fuck about their lives. I find that shit crass, distasteful, and unacceptable overall. Like, I don't think that shit is cool. I don't think it's ever cool. It never will be cool. So this guy was a radicalist. Pretty easy to see. He got what the fuck he had coming, and I would use it as a stark reminder for people, especially proponents of free speech like myself. You still have to watch what you say. Like, free speech is not free, and you got motherfuckers, especially leftists, waiting for any soundbite, any quote, any clip they can get of you being heinous or just or distasteful, and they'll ruin you for it. So keep your eyes peeled. Another one, courtesy of NBC News. Utah man killed by FBI pointed a gun at agents before fatal shooting. Craig DeLue Robertson was fatally shot when agents were trying to serve a search warrant at his Provo home by Peter Alexander and Phil McCausland. A Utah man fatally shot by the FBI on Wednesday was armed when FBI agents confronted him at his home, a senior law enforcement official told NBC News. Authorities said he pointed his weapon at agents and did not respond to their commands. Yeah, I'm sure he did. Officials said the FBI fatally shot the man, who was identified in charging documents as Craig DeLue Robertson, Deleeuw, as they were serving a warrant at his home in Provo on Wednesday. He had allegedly made threats against President Joe Biden, saying he would need to prepare his camouflage and sniper rifle for Biden's visit to Utah this week. He also openly plotted online the assassination of Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan district attorney whose office is prosecuting former President Donald Trump. The senior law enforcement official said the Secret Service initially referred to Robertson and his threats to the FBI. Truth Social, the social media site Trump founded and uses regularly, also alerted the FBI in March about Robertson's threats against Bragg on the site, a second senior law enforcement official said. The shooting occurred at 6:15 a.m. Wednesday as agents were trying to serve arrests and search warrants at Robertson's home. The FBI said in a statement, it said that no agents were injured and that the incident was under review by the agency's inspection division. Robertson was shot inside his home in an entryway, one of the officials said. The investigation into the fatal shooting will determine through forensics whether Robertson fired his weapon, that senior official said. The Secret Service said Wednesday it was aware of the investigation in the shooting but referred all questions to the FBI. Little information was shared Wednesday morning about the circumstances leading up to the shooting. In the absence of greater clarity, partisan-driven disinformation has developed freely on social media. Right-wing posters online have readily compared Robertson to Ashley Babbitt, the pro-Trump protester who was shot as she stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Babbitt, an Air Force veteran, has become a martyr among some on the far right. Now some have claimed that Robertson was killed for his views, which were opposed to the Biden administration. Disinformation has increased in the internet ecosystem, which in turn propagates domestic terrorism during periods of political polarization, according to a Penn State University study published last year. That, at times, has made the job of law enforcement more difficult because of how the FBI is perceived, a former senior FBI official said. None of these people get named. They probably aren't allowed to be named, but still, I'd like to know who the fuck these people are, so this just doesn't sound like arbitrary nonsense. Agents are routinely the subject of threats by the people they're investigating, the former official said, and that makes the mission so much harder to do because it changes everything you do, quite literally. Not much is known about Robertson's life beyond the shooting. He had only one previous run-in with law enforcement. He was arrested in 1997 for disorderly conduct, to which he pleaded no contest and paid a $70 fine, according to public records. Robertson's daughter-in-law, Julie Robertson, said in the immediate aftermath of his death that he was a woodworker and a dog lover, but she struggled to describe him. She said the moment was very, very difficult for the family, as I bet it was. Imagine being awakened, because this shit happened at 6:15 in the morning, so I'm assuming they told his family in the morning. So imagine waking up to a call from the FBI or something like that saying, we regret to inform you that, or did you know, what was his fucking name? Did you know Craig DeLue Robertson? We regret to inform you that he's been fatally shot by the FBI. We'll release more details when we feel like it. Have a good grievance. And that's just that. How the fuck would you feel? And then probably within a day or two after that, like you gotta respond and comment about it. I hate when that shit happens. Like people think that that's some type of outlet. I don't see it as that. Like especially in Detroit, I used to say this all the time when I was a kid, growing up watching the news, seeing some mom on TV bawling her fucking eyes out the same fucking day that her child has been shot fatally. And they're gonna put her on the news, and she's just gonna be up there like, "I can't believe they killed my baby, and this needs to stop." And blah, blah. Like that's just the worst. Even Joe Rogan is cautious about interviewing fighters after they've just been knocked out. Somebody just kicked you in the head. Somebody just blew your fucking face up, knocked you unconscious, and now you got to wake up approximately 2 minutes later and discuss what just happened to you before you've even had time to process it. I just think that's heinous. I think it's distasteful. I think it shouldn't happen. You know, people shouldn't be forced to have to, like, why do we need to see people's first reaction to tragedy? I get it. It's news and people want to look at it, but it's like, fuck's sake, dude. Like, don't people get a moment to grieve? Don't people get a moment to, like, even figure out how they feel or, like, where they going with this emotion? Like, seriously, dog. Like, a motherfucker don't get a half minute before they got to talk about the tragedy that they just endured as they're enduring it. I don't think it's cool. And then just to recap this guy. So this Craig DeLue Robertson, this guy, he was shot inside of his home in an entryway. So you're telling me at 6:15, right when you guys showed up, I'm assuming unannounced, like you just, you didn't give this guy no notice and say, yo, we about to come raid your ass on Wednesday. Like you just popped up, boom, 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 boom. FBI. And he was just there ready and waiting. And you got to do it. What did it say? The investigation into the fatal shooting will determine through forensics whether Robertson fired his weapon. So you guys shot and killed a man in the entryway of his home without being sure that he fired a weapon. What? And then it occurred at 6:15 a.m. They were trying to serve a search arrest. It doesn't say how long it lasted. And I'm not saying it's okay for this guy to say he wants to kill the president. Like you can say that, but you shouldn't. Like you shouldn't, especially if there's anybody, and regardless of if there's anybody out there who will take you seriously. Like that's not. I don't care how strongly I dislike Joe Biden. You will never catch me uttering sentences like what this guy said, what he wanted to do to Joe Biden or any president or whatever. Like I would not do that. Because I don't want shit like this to happen. So this guy shouldn't have been doing that shit. He shouldn't have been saying he wanted to commit dangerous acts against the president, lethal acts. But to not even get this man due process, to show up at his house at 6:15 in the morning and say you saw a gun, so you shot him dead in the entryway to his house, and his family seems distraught about it. Like, and then it says he allegedly made threats against President Joe Biden. So this is all alleged stuff. Saying he would need to prepare his camouflage and sniper rifle. And like that's the picture that they use to show this guy. Like, this is the picture that they want to show. And if you can see, he's got his fucking long gun with the fucking 12x scope on that bitch. That's the picture that they wanted to use to portray this man. They didn't want to show no picture of him like hugging his family or whatever. I also heard about this on the Matt Walsh show. I think this guy like walked his son to church every Sunday. Like they don't want to highlight those facts. They don't want to, a guy who's had one run-in with the police in 1997, which resulted in a no contest plea and a $70 fine. What can you do today to where you only have to pay $70 for it? Like what criminal offense, regardless of severity, is worth $70? That's like junior restitution at best. Like what? So this guy is not like he might have said some shit on the fucking right wing website, which I'm sure if you go to any kind of extremist reps, and then people on the left will actively and happily advocate for your death. If you don't agree with their ideologies, they will root for your killing. They will encourage that shit. They do this. This isn't a matter of opinion. If you don't agree with the leftists, the sheer thought of your death is looked upon as humor. It's a joke. Fuck it, kill him. Who gives a goddamn? Fuck that guy. You know? And that's ridiculous. But this guy allegedly says it in some alt-right or far-right group site, and an FBI agent show up at 6:15 a.m. where he conveniently has a gun and they shoot this man dead. And they still got to do forensics to figure out whether my man's even fired his gun. So they killed an allegedly armed, all this allegedly shit, you know. And it says disinformation has increased in the internet ecosystem, which in turn propagates domestic terrorism during periods of political polarization, according to a Penn State University study. Yeah, that's a convenient factoid for this article. They got a link to where you can click the study. I might click it real quick and talk about it. And agents are routinely the subject of threats by the people they're investigating. Yeah. Not much is known about Robertson's life beyond the shooting. So whether they don't know anything positive, and they know he had one run-in with the law, and that was 26 years ago. 26 years ago. And he pleaded no contest and paid a $70 fine. And then Robertson's daughter-in-law, Julie Robertson, said in the immediate aftermath that he was a woodworker and a dog lover. Like, nobody can describe this man to be somebody who is going to be waiting around at 6:15 to draw down with the fucking FBI. Like, it just doesn't add up to me. Let me click this Penn State University study. Let's see what that shit entails. Oh, it's another article. Okay, so this is courtesy of Penn State. Fake news, the effects of social media disinformation on domestic terrorism. It's a study that tests whether social media disinformation contributes to domestic terrorism within countries. I theorize that disinformation disseminated by political actors online through social media heightens political polarization within countries, and that this in turn produces an environment where domestic terrorism is more likely to occur. I test this theory using data from more than 150 countries for the period of 2000 to 2017. I find that propagation of disinformation through social media drives domestic terrorism using mediation tests. I also verify that disinformation disseminated through social media increases domestic terrorism by, among other processes, enhancing political polarization within society. So, yeah, okay, so this is a little bit more to unpack, but I'll look into this. If you want to visit the link, it is, let me see. Well, you can go to pure.psu.edu. See, it's not bringing it up the whole link when I try to see it. So let me see here. I might be able to. So yeah, pure.psu.edu/n/publications/fake-news-the-effects-of-social-media-disinformation on domestic. So yeah, you can probably put the rest together, or just go to Penn State and find that shit yourself. Which is what I'm gonna do shortly after I conclude this episode. But it just to me, I don't know, man. It just seems like the government is doing what they do best, especially with this weird ass administration that we got right now. Like, if you don't you say some shit they don't like, you do some shit they don't like, they're gonna ruin you. They're gonna come for you. And this guy hasn't committed a recorded crime in 26 years, and the FBI shows up to his house at 6:15 in the morning when motherfuckers are either still sleeping or just waking up, and blows his ass away in the entryway. And it says he has a gun. They didn't even say what kind of gun it was. It's just not enough details surrounding this, and I tend to be skeptical of situations like that. But it sucks. Wish the best for his family, condolences and whatnot. And all goes back to the first segment, man. Like, you gotta watch what the fuck you say. Like, what free speech is not free in terms of you don't have to pay for what you say. For real. What's going on, everybody? I just wanted to say that's the show. Thanks for watching, as usual. Don't forget, tune in this either Saturday or Sunday. Looking like it's gonna probably be Sunday because I need a day off too. But be looking for part 3 of 9, mental maintenance. We're gonna be teaching y'all boys how to talk, how to debate, and how to stay on focus and recognize your own thinking errors, so you can be articulate, functioning members of society. So, with that being said, until next time, I holla. Peace.